Welcome to Weekly World News on Spring Nectar TV, brought to you by Vibha Ramesh, Los Angeles, United States. First, the top headlines. Shooting at a high school in Michigan. Fauci warns of fifth wave. UK to provide booster shots for adults by January 2022. Latest report on Chinese hackers warns of probable quantum decryption. World Health Organization's take on Omicron variant and blanket bans. India extends help to Africa. Health officials speak about the Omicron variant. Moving on to news in detail. In an unfortunate incident in Michigan, United States, 4 students were killed and 7 others injured. Here's what happened. On Tuesday, a high schooler pulled the trigger in Oxford High School near Detroit, taking away the lives of 4 students and injuring 7 people. Soon after the shooting, the school was placed on lockdown and a medical helicopter landed to address medical emergencies. Authorities had no update on the motive of the suspect, as the sheriff's statement read. A 15-year-old sophomore student of Oxford High School has been taken into custody and the handgun was recovered. There was no resistance during the arrest, and the suspect has asked for a lawyer and has not made any statements as to a motive. As of Wednesday, news unfolded that the shooter, Ethan Crumbley, was charged with murder and terrorism. Meanwhile, fear of the newest variant of the virus Omicron has reached the United States too, as Chief Medical Advisor Anthony Fauci warned of the United States getting into a fifth wave. In the light of the new variant showing signs of increased transmissibility, Dr. Fauci urged Americans to be cautious as well as prepared in the event of an infection. His words as stated on NBC. Right now, we have the window into the mutations that are in this new variant, and they are troublesome in the fact that there are about 32 or more variants in that very important spike protein of the virus, which is the business end of the virus. In other words, the profile of the mutations strongly suggest that it's going to have an advantage in transmissibility and that it might evade immune protection that you would get, for example, from the monoclonal antibody or from the convalescent serum after a person's been infected, and possibly even against some of the vaccine-induced antibodies. So it's not necessarily that that's going to happen, but it's a strong indication that we really need to be prepared for that. And on the business front, Twitter gets a new CEO after the stepping down of Jack Dorsey. That said, he will continue to be on their board until the stockholder meeting in 2022. Dorsey is replaced by Parag Agarwal as announced on Monday. Announcing his resignation and the onboarding of Agarwal, Jack remarked, "I've decided to leave Twitter because I believe the company is ready to move on from its founders. My trust in Parag as Twitter's CEO is deep. His work over the past 10 years has been transformational. I'm deeply grateful for his skill, heart, and soul. It's his time to lead." Moving on, United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson refuted leading scientists' opinion on travel and socializing as he announced that there was no need to cancel Christmas plans. Instead, he reiterated the need and urgency to get boosted to combat the spread of the virus. On that note, he announced that all eligible adults in the country will be offered a third shot. The move was made with the hope of increasing protection against the newly emerged Omicron variant. He said, "We're going to be throwing everything at it to ensure everyone eligible is offered a booster in just over 2 months. There will be temporary vaccine centers popping up like Christmas trees." And on Monday, a 10-year deal that promises cooperation on cybersecurity and others between Britain and Israel was agreed upon. To this end, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and her Israeli peer Yair Lapid said that the agreement was evidence of a new strategic plan for the next decade spanning cyber, tech, trade, and defense, while the two countries would work night and day to prevent the Iranian regime from ever becoming a nuclear power. Over to China, a detailed research study reveals that Chinese hackers may exploit quantum computing to unlock heavily encrypted datasets. The study, conducted by analysts at Booz Allen Hamilton, also warns of the possible stealing of chemical, pharmaceutical, and material science research by Chinese hackers. The study claims that the data thus hacked would be decrypted at a later stage when quantum computing provides data crunching at lightning speed. According to the report, encrypted data with intelligence longevity, like biometric markers, covert intelligence officer, and source identities, social security numbers, and weapons designs, may be increasingly stolen under the expectation that they can eventually be decrypted. It also added that although quantum computers' current abilities are more demonstrative than immediately useful, their trajectory suggests that in the coming decades, quantum computers will likely revolutionize numerous industries, from pharmaceuticals to material science, and eventually undermine all popular current public key encryption methods. And here's what the World Health Organization has to say about the Omicron variant that has moved several countries to impose new restrictions. According to the World Health Organization, unvaccinated people and those above 60 years of age should deter any travel plans, especially to areas with community transmission. And in response to the blanket bans being imposed by countries, WHO stated that generic bans may not help curb the virus. In effect, countries will have to adopt country-specific measures that could help combat the virus more efficiently. Subsequently, the United States now requires stricter testing at the borders, irrespective of the vaccination status. Japan has announced the expansion of its travel ban to include 10 African countries, and starting Wednesday, only the vaccinated can travel in and out of Canada. And Singapore has announced a requirement of a mandatory PCR test for all travelers, while Hong Kong has expanded its entry ban for non-residents. Moving on, India gears up for the summit scheduled for December 6th as Russia looks up to India as its strategic partner and defense supplier. Leaders of the two countries are in talks about a strategic defense agenda. With India's promising push for self-reliance in defense production, Russia aims to establish a strategic partnership with India. Meanwhile, health officials talk about the emergence of the new variant of COVID-19 as concerning but not alarming. To that effect, Dr. Shekhar Mande, DG Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, stated that the surveillance is online, as it always is. So, if the virus reaches India, we will come to know. We're observing the situation in other countries like the Netherlands, Germany, and of course, hotspot South Africa. And it is a bit concerning, but I would not say alarming. He also emphasized the importance of getting inoculated and urged the unvaccinated people to get vaccinated at the earliest. According to the latest information, only 2 cases of the Omicron variant were detected in the country. The Modi government has expressed support for Africa as it announced the clearance of all orders placed by the COVAX program. Subsequently, India would be supplying Covishield vaccines to Ethiopia, Guinea, Mozambique, Malawi, Lesotho, and Zambia. News has it that the country has already supplied over 25 million vaccine doses to 41 African countries. Here's what the Indian government said. The government of India stands ready to support the countries affected in Africa in dealing with the Omicron variant, including supplies of made-in-India vaccines. And in France, French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin passed a strong remark on British ministers' double talk over the Channel crisis. He said, "Relations are good when we speak in private. Every week I have my British counterpart on the telephone, and when we have personal meetings and exchange messages, we see the UK has a serious approach and we have things in common. Then, as soon as it's something said in public, in the House of Commons or on social media and the press, there's a difference of tone that becomes strongly unfriendly and is often different, even diametrically the opposite of what has been said in private." The more France is used as a punching bag for British domestic politics, and we hear provocative statements like France has to take back all the immigrants, the harder it becomes to find a solution. It's not only insulting, it's totally unrealistic, he said. Meanwhile, scientists in South Africa have embarked on the crucial task of gauging the efficacy of COVID vaccines against the Omicron variant. According to them, Omicron carries several mutations, making it less predictable in terms of its potential to cause infection, as well as how effectively it can hide from the immune defenses. Study of the vaccines is currently taking place at Professor Penny Moore's lab. The core of the study involves analyzing the protection provided by Johnson & Johnson, Oxford AstraZeneca, and Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines. Moreover, plasma from recovered patients are also being tested to assess the probable risk of reinfection. Findings of the study, which is expected to be ready in about 2 weeks, will throw light on whether the existing vaccines are good enough to protect the vaccinated population against the new variant, or it's time to develop an updated vaccine. We'll keep you posted on this as it unfolds. With that, we come to this week's Did You Know? Did you know that the size of your liver fluctuates throughout the day? A study on mice revealed that their liver cells expanded and contracted up to 40% during normal activities. A similar study on humans, however, showed only a 20% change in liver size between day and night. As science would have it, the human liver hits its maximum efficiency when active and returns to its normal size when at rest. One theory also points out to the influence of the circadian clock on the liver. And that brings us to the end of this week's news bulletin. I'll see you again next Friday with more world news on Spring Nectar TV. Stay safe.